Here we are.
Awesome. Good morning, everybody. We're going to give folks a couple of minutes here to get settled in. If you're on the West Coast, you've got your coffee. If you've got the East Coast, maybe you've already eaten lunch and you've got dessert. A little, I don't know, piece of cake, ice cream, who knows? Maybe another coffee.
Listen, you should tell these people they're part of an historic webinar. This is standing room only. I've never seen a webinar like this. This is obviously a very on topic, on trend concept.
Absolutely. I would love to know where folks are coming in from. So feel free to drop in your location, company, what type of contractor you are.
Texas, Virginia Beach.
Learn about.
A little bit of Vancouver, awesome. Denver, Spokane, Oregon, San Jose.
Someone just sent me a message and said that eating dessert for lunch is not a thing. Is that just me? I always have dessert at lunch.
He weighs like, yeah, I know. Talk to me when you get to my age. You'll never have dessert again.
Well, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We're going to go ahead and get started here. What an amazing topic we have set up for us today, as Bassem mentioned, extremely relevant to what's happening, not just in the world, but in construction, certainly. We've all heard about AI. Popularity seems to have skyrocketed over the last several months, and for good reason. At Briq, we have been paying attention to this topic very closely, not just for the last several months, but for the last several years. We are a tech company after all, and it's our job to understand this technology and what's happening in the space. So today we're joined by our CEO and co-founder of Briq, Bassem Hamdy, to talk through what we know about the subject and what we know about AI and some of the work that we've been putting into it over the last several years, really to help us all demystify this very important topic. So we're just a little housekeeping. We're using a platform here called Livestorm. You have a chat, you have a question window there. We're going to take questions at the end, but feel free to throw those in as they come up. We also have some cool polls we're going to throw at you throughout the conversation. So please, I would love to hear your feedback on those. Also, we're making an announcement at the end of this presentation today about a project we're launching here at Briq on the category. So I think really, a really interesting opportunity for everyone here to kind of actually get involved with some of the AI trends here. So stay tuned for that.
Awesome.
Without further ado, Bassem, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Good to see you. So for those that are new to Briq or to you, why don't you give us kind of some of your background and your story of founding Briq?
Yeah. If you go back all the way to the beginning, right after business school, I actually went into banking. So I didn't start in construction tech. And I got on a plane. I probably saw the movie Wall Street one time too many. And I joined a bank in London, England, in the city, literally 3-piece suits. If you can imagine, people that know me know that would never have worked for me. So I lasted a couple of years and then got on a plane. And I wish I could tell you, Ellis, that there was more of a plan, but I literally took the first tech job I could get. And it happened to be with a construction accounting solution. I thought, oh my God, how construction plus accounting, how boring could this be? And ultimately I was there a decade and a half and then joined Procore during its ascension and then got the opportunity to be an entrepreneur. It's the best day of my life. I started Briq with Ron, my co-founder, and he was best man at my wedding. And we started Briq with this thesis that, my first implementation with Turner Construction at the CMIC, it was 1999. And if I walked into some construction companies today in 2023, in some cases, not much has changed. And in some cases, it's actually gotten worse. So the thesis around Briq is, can you automate not just like the document workflow or the design workflow, but can you automate the money workflow? In my mind, it was always the biggest problem, right? Nobody knows how much a project's going to cost or how much money their company is going to make. So what if Briq could find a way to automate it? Which, by the way, sounds like a great thesis. We had no idea how we were going to do it. So we started and had a couple of false starts, but in 2020, Briq launched as Briq, and the rest has been history. It's been a great ride. And we want to thank our 300 plus clients and our investors that made this all happen.
Yeah, an amazing story, and like we said at the top, AI has always been part of the conversation. I know that if you look kind of on the Google Trends, it's reached its peak in terms of popularity.
Sure.
Not so much in 2019, but what we'll cover today are the 7 things, not just because AI is a big umbrella, and I think I think what we're going to focus on today are those. What are this kind of? Let's boil it down to the essentials and really how it can be used, how it's being used in construction today.
Yeah, 100%. I think when we talk about, so Briq, for overall, Briq was always about trying something new. And what Briq at its core is, it's a financial automation platform. And we kind of banned the term AI in 2020 because, there was so many false promises and false hopes on the idea of artificial intelligence. And I was the first to say in 2020, what Briq was I wouldn't call it, it wasn't at that intelligence level. It was like a 13-year-old kid. It was artificial, an automation platform, and we'll talk through the types of AI. An automation platform does what a human does, but it's a machine, so it eliminates that workload. The idea here is that Briq, as a platform, was doing human simulated work, but with very basic intelligence. And I think that was the core differentiator in 2020, is that now that we see the technology growing and some of these initiatives that we're talking about, all of a sudden, we're seeing automation getting a lot smarter and AI getting a lot smarter. And let's talk through what made Briq get 300 clients in this category. When we built Briq, we knew one thing and one thing only. Every construction company, regardless of how similar they seem, their location, what have you, are very, very different. The DNA of a construction company is different. Delivery methods, types of clients, types of projects, location, union versus non-union. There is a degree of differentiation between construction companies. And I think that's what's amazing about construction, that there has never been a duality. There's not Coke and Pepsi. There's thousands and thousands of construction companies. The reason why is the DNA of each construction company solves different problems. A company that does industrial work, self-performs 50% of the work, is very different than a commercial contractor that self-performs 1% of their work. They're just different. So Briq had to be 100% personalized. And that's where the technology really started. And it's not just Briq. In general, if you're going to build an engine that gets smarter over time, while a lot of it can be generalized, it has to be personalized from an experience perspective. Your experience is going to be different. The other thing is, in order for AI to grow and for companies to get better at this, data cannot be siloed. We realized that very, very early on. You cannot have data islands. The question isn't about importing data. That's easy. Importing data from PM system to an accounting system. That's this is 2023. That is elementary. It's transforming that data into something that makes sense, to something that is graph-based. And what I mean by that is, an object, like a change order, has a meaning. And in this world, they call it an ontology. It has a definition. Regardless of the genesis of that change order, whether it's your owner-mandated project management system, your in-the-field PM system, an Excel spreadsheet, it means something. So it's not just about data connections. It's about data meaning and then connecting into a vast tapestry. The idea that AI requires data is, an axiom. We know that's true, but it requires data with meaning. And the nice thing about verticalized AI like this, there is a finite type of objects, list of objects that require meaning. And Briq, in our case, was able to create transformations that allow data from multiple sources to be providing that meaning. The other thing is, AI in early days, we had some clients that use some of our predictive analytic tools, what have you. They tried to keep it very closed off. It was the IT group or an innovation group. The reality is, for this to work, we have to democratize its use. And so, for example, when folks are using our smart forecasting workflows, Ellis, don't work unless the project manager is in the loop. It just fundamentally won't work. So this has to be highly collaborative. So if you're trying to, automate a process of understanding your headcount requirements in the field. You can't do that without humans in the loop in the field telling you at least a 1, 2, or 3 week look at. Understanding that collaboration is required. Understanding that the data collaboration, the data meaning has to be acquired, and that the personalization of this, that this has to be blank and painted by our clients. That's what launched this platform. And that is one of the biggest things in regards to AI that we have to realize. It needs to be personalized. It needs to be collaborative, and it needs to connect to all data sources, and not just connect dumb data, but connect data with meaning. The last 2 pillars is the outcomes of that. We had a survey that we partnered with a large magazine, and we surveyed about 1,000 professionals in construction with a very simple question. What percentage accuracy do your project managers forecast at? And if you don't have an answer for that, do you track accuracy? 7 out of 1,000 people say they were aware of the forecasting accuracy of their project managers 1 quarter ago. This is a real-time world. Like, we don't just build once a quarter. We're not on job sites once a quarter. Why do we only care about job performance once a month or once a quarter or twice a year? So accuracy and timeliness is the outcome of where you need to go with a smart system, right? It's got to be personalized. It's got to be connected to everything you know. It has to understand the connection. It has to understand the difference between an AP invoice, a subcontractor request for payment, a subcontract. It has to understand the difference between a change event, a potential change order, a change order. It needs to understand that, and it needs to be personalized. And that is really where we're at.
Yeah, 100%. So Bassem, these are kind of the tenets of the Briq platform, that the tech, the underlying kind of pieces that we've built on which to develop some of these great technologies within AI. So if you were to Google today, what is AI? What are the types of AI? You're probably going to get, 20 different answers, right?
Ask ChatGPT, right?
Yeah. We've boiled it down to 3. Talk us through kind of the 3 main core pillars of AI that matter to us.
Let's talk about the hottest one first. It's called generative AI. And what generative AI is, I'll call it qualitative AI. It basically takes unstructured data, that is highly unstructured data, not even in an Excel spreadsheet, just articles. Think about it, just words. And when that unstructured data is cataloged and properly measured, you can ask questions of that unstructured data to get responses out of it. And when you think about it, generative AI is the simplest way to discuss is the paraphrasing of knowledge that a system or a neural network is being given to answer a question. So it's paraphrasing. When you say write an article about Briq, it's taking all the information it has about Briq in its neural net and then creating a story that is paraphrasing it. This is intelligence, but it's like when people are talking about, the Terminator style end of the world situations, we're definitely nowhere near that. They're literally, it's a machine that's using synonyms. Like we get that. It's getting very, very interesting when you start asking it questions. It's not at a point where, it's a human being or has feelings. It's billions and billions of articles about billions and billions of subjects taught by thousands and thousands of people. And I think we're going to talk about the people component of this. So generative, if you look at it and somebody asks you at a party, what is generative AI? Generative AI is the idea that unstructured data, words and sentences, can be used to answer questions. That's what's producing that kind of generative model. So ultimately, if you ask it to write a description about Ellis Talton, it will look through its data store and say, oh, I know who Ellis Talton is. These are other descriptions about him on the internet, and therefore this is the description I will provide you in an intelligent way. One of our early advisors and still on our advisory board, Carmel Allison, who is the head of AI at Microsoft, she has built out and helped champion OpenAI, and we were talking to her over the weekend, just talking about how hot this is a topic and how early days it is. And I think that's a big point of order. Lots of examples in generative AI. I mean, kids are writing their school papers all the way to marketers are using this to write articles.
Yeah, absolutely. And keep in mind, it's very scalable. GPT stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer, which is basically, let me take a bunch of words, I'm going to put it through this transformer and rearrange the words in an order based on the inputs. That's all it is. And you can apply that as well to descriptions on a purchase order, for example, of a certain line item, right? There's a lot of applications on this within construction. The Chat GPT that everyone knows about is applied to, the entire internet, but it's not applied to, a specific company's, inventory of POs, for example.
Yeah, and I think one of the best examples that we have of generative in the field, and it's important to note that this isn't. We don't want this to be Fantasyland AI. This is real world AI. So a very, very large social network uses Briq to communicate RFIs and submittals from the social networks, project management system that they mandate into the general contractor's project management system. That is a form of generative AI. The AI at Briq reads the RFI, understands who's it to, who's it from, and then paraphrases it for the receiving company's project management system. So taking project management system X, which is mine, the general contractors, and communicating with project management system Y, which is my owner's system. That transformation is generating data in both places and keeping it. It's not, and this is not an integration issue. They tried to solve this with APIs or what have you. It is not an integration issue. It is an intelligence issue, right? And I think that's where, a big differentiator, a takeaway that, I want everybody to take away with this is that you're not going to fix this with CSV uploads or, some sort of connector. This is about intelligence and process, not about integrations. And generative is taking that qualitative data, an RFI, and turning it into an RFI in another system. That's a big part of generative.
100%. And so let's talk about predictive. The other thing is, if you asked ChatGPT for the winning lottery tickets tomorrow, it ain't going to tell you, right? It's not smart in the sense, it's not predictive. And in fact, predictive is tough. So talk about however, it's very popular and there's a lot of, interest in getting it right. Talk about the predictive category.
This is the holy grail. And we kind of see it as this level of predictive analytics. There were companies in construction software that were trying to predict, safety incidents using videos, or there's other companies that are trying to predict, the productivity of a project using, videos and communications and reading emails and such. I mean, the reality is that this is a very, very difficult part of the business. Understanding predictive analytics is the use of data inputs that drive the concept of what might happen tomorrow. That's what predictive AI is. It's using the basis of information that is aware of both present and past to predict tomorrow's potential outcomes. Right now, the promise of predictive is still very early days. Even for Briq, we call our predictive models time travel. It allows you to go back using historic data and then things that we call features. Features are things like the type of project, the location, the type of project manager, the experience set of this, of the subcontractors on the project, etc. These are called features. And using features, it overlays these features on the new project and then looks at the historic outcomes of the previous projects and say, this is a potential spend curve. This is a potential cash flow curve. This is a potential revenue curve. This is, I would call it minor league AI. Like it's barely AI. It's basic math right now. And so I'm open enough to say that predictive analytics is way too early. We did partner with Google with an AutoML project, analyzing data since 1973 for a large civil contractor. And, with varying degrees of success, it's still very early days, but in simply put, just to make it not Briq centric, predictive analytics, predictive AI is using past data to, forecast future events. That is a very, very difficult concept to get around. And I think that is the holy grail. If you can come in there and say, hey, this project is going to go under budget because of X, Y, Z. That's another big pillar of AI.
Yeah. It's another way to describe it. It's the process of taking data you have to create data you don't have, which is a tough thing to do. So of these three, between automation, generative, predictive, what's the most interesting to you right now?
Let's talk about automation. We haven't even talked about automation yet, and this is intelligent automation. That's really the core area. We're generative and intelligent automation. So Briq as a company focuses all its R&D on these top two items. Automation is, there's a great article in the New York Times called "The Robots Are Coming for Phil in Accounting." They're not coming to take over the world. They're coming to control C data from column J and put control V it in column K, right? The idea here is that automation, intelligent automation, is the process of these little computer programs called bots doing the work of a human with basic intelligence. Think about it. The idea of somebody taking a budget out of a project management system and manually typing it into an accounting system is insane to everybody on this call. Yet we do it 1,000 times a day and in construction. And the idea here is that bots can replace humans on these repetitive tasks. And we're going to spend a lot of time talking about automation on this call. It's the idea that these little computer programs will get smarter over time and do the work that humans fundamentally do not want to do. It's not work. Nobody wants to do double data entry. They want to be knowledge workers. The more time a project manager is down here on a keyboard, the less time they're looking at the site, the less time they're looking at, safety issues, walking the site, talking to a subcontractor, delivering work. We need to stop turning these people in the field into data entry clerks because we need something from them. And first of all, they're not getting anything out of the equation. Just double data entry doesn't anything for anyone. And the unfortunate fact is there's 300,000 open jobs in construction today. 300,000. There aren't enough bodies to fill seats to do this wasteful work. So the idea, what I'm so passionate about, is there is technology that is employed. Briq in the last 24 months streamlined 2 million transactions. Our bots entered 2 million transactions. Last week alone, we created 39,000 transactions in systems as variants as CMIC, Sage 300, all the way to eBuilder, Procore, you name it, doing the work of a human being. That human did not have to do that work. And let's talk about what that means. I think we should.
Yeah, we got a couple of amens in the chat too on that one, Bassem. Yeah. And I think the other, as we go, we're going to go through 7, kind of the things you should know about us. And I think the trend you're going to find here is that AI, this big crazy word, is actually very simple, and it shows up in the most, in places that are the least unexpected, probably.
100%. And I think what the fear is, like, if we go in and we talk to folks, when we sell to construction, we don't talk about AI, we talk about automation, right? I think AI is like a cool term right now. Like, you want to put an asterisk next to it. Like, we don't want AI to be the next crypto, like NFT, like meaningless. We need to give it meaning. This is our responsibility as software professionals. We have to give it meaning. And what the meaning is on bullet point 1 is that what we're calling intelligent automation and generative technology is enhancing the workload, not replacing it. When you have to do work on these big gnarly workflows, let's talk, like, Ellis, give me one of the big monster workflows that we automate. Give me an example of one.
Let's take, like, if you have a PM mandated system and you're doing between your project management system and an owner mandated system.
Yeah. So you're now entering the same piece of data twice, and you have to process that new login. You have to process that extra steps. You have to cut and paste. You have to upload and download 5, 10, 15 minutes, right? When you put that across 1,000 objects, all of a sudden 200-300 hours a year melt away. Enhancing what you do is very, very different, meaning I can now work without doing double data entry, without doing tasks, without having this constant reminder that I'm basically a robot. I'm being treated like a robot as an employee because they're telling me not to think anymore. One of the lines of one of our controllers that works with Briq said, I put on my headphones and I turn off my brain for 4 hours at the end of every month so I can get data between systems. And this is not an integration process problem. This is a process problem. So it's enhancing the future of work. And I like the term the future of work, because the future of work cannot be that one person that's been at your construction company for 42 years that knows how to shift F9 and whatever archaic systems you're using. You know, the idea here is that it's enhancing your workload. It's turning you into a knowledge worker. It's giving you time back. And it's hard to quantify that because we don't have enough folks to start. Remember, like we said, we don't have enough people anyway. So you're not going to be firing people, but you're going to enhance their workload. And it goes, Ellis, it goes all the way to lifestyle. Like 40, 60 burnt hours a month in shitty work results in somebody being unhappy with their job. And there are people that are worried, very forward-thinking CEOs that know, and they come to us and they go, I know we will lose the war on talent and people will leave if my workload includes a bunch of Excel spreadsheets, Control-C, Control-V, and double data entry. That's truly what enhancement means.
100%. And we just threw up a poll for anyone, curious to know how many times you're being asked to use that, a mandated system. I think that's an example of, hey, can I teach a bot how to do that work on my behalf? Can I teach an agent?
Yeah, and also, and think through like change orders that have to be re-entered, or forecasting to WIP is a horrendous process where people are logging into accounting systems. The CFO is downloading reams and reams of data, creating an Excel spreadsheet, dozens of them, sending them to project managers, waiting for them to come back, and then gluing them back together 30, 60, 90 days from first export to decision, to forecast, to WIP, to over under billing. This is not that's playing yesterday's game. That's playing yesterday's game. I think this is my favorite one. It's, automation, you take these big gnarly workflows and you atomize them first and you break them into their component parts. And then you enhance the work by automating the portions you don't need to do anymore. But humans have to be in the loop, Ellis. In order for this to work, humans must be in the loop to get decisions made. A computer will not forecast for you right now. So what you want to do, though, is augment the human experience, meaning the right information to the right person at the right time to make the right decision. That is the fundamental concept about augmentation. It's adding the work human that needs to be in there, because AI, artificial intelligence, is nowhere near as smart as a project manager or a CFO or a controller. There are certain decisions that must be made by a human, specifically in vertical AI construction, that needs more information at the right time. How many folks sit on this call, go into monthly owners meetings or monthly cost projection meetings and spend 50% of the time arguing amongst yourselves? Accounting, estimating, operations, your number's wrong, your number's wrong, your number's wrong, your number's wrong. There should be only one playing field. And the augmentation, every week says Brett, the augmentation here is that should no longer be a discussion. I should be able to trust that automation. I should be able to trust what was delivered to me. I should be able to say that, I know how many person hours were spent last month. Great example, one of our clients, 6-month project, industrial project. I won't mention the client or the owner. First month's meeting, under budget project, no red flags. Second month meeting, under budget project, no red flags. Inside of that under budget, though, their general conditions spend on hours were in the hundreds when it should have been in the thousands in the first 2 months. No, you don't need a genius to come along and go, hey, there's not enough hours in the day to catch up in 6 months. You're not delivering that project in 6 months. You're going to deliver it in 8 or 9. Augmentation means there is no gray area. There's no human that has to flip through a spreadsheet. It's the anomaly detection of the fact that you said you'd spend 1,000 person hours in the first 2 months. You spent 100. Where are the 900 hours coming from? And they're just not there. That's the concept of augmentation.
Yeah, 100%. It's putting the right data in front of the right person at the right time to make the right decision, right? That's what that's about. And at the end of the day, it's about how do I be more accurate, which we talked a little bit about earlier.
Yeah, we talk about accuracy like in a very let's be in a very open way. We are throwing darts in construction a lot of time, and you don't even have to go into some big AI discussion point. We're guessing at cost codes to put on an invoice half the time. It's like, where did we estimate that? And it's like, what? Like, we are costing things, off of credit card statements that ultimately we don't even know, right? So think about a very simple workflow like AP invoices. The AP invoice was generated, let's say, off a PO or an estimate. At the generation of that PO or estimate, we know where it fundamentally should be located on the budget. Unless you're over budget, then you move it around. But ultimately, where it should go. Odds are where it should go. Having a human walk in and have to cost code that, and I still see it. I still see stamps on invoices with a pen, a project. This is not like months ago. Or years ago. This is like yesterday. Writing a cost code on a piece of paper and signing it and handing it to another human being. And then it's fat fingered into a system. That cost code isn't on the budget. We don't know where it is, and it's gone. Months passed, and we never see that show up on an invoice. We never see that show up on the concept of billings. And then all of a sudden, you're at the at the point where you've lost it. I think there's a great poll question on this. So, how many times do you have to do double data entry? I don't remember the exact poll question, but it was one that our implementation team wanted to know. And I think, Amanda, if we can post that one, the concept here is there is an incredible amount of double data entry that makes you less accurate.
Yeah. And part of it is that, AI has a memory, right? All the way from the beginning of a workflow to the very end. You talked about that, atomizing the workflow. If I were to break it down, maybe there's 45 steps included in closing my month, right?
Right.
It doesn't forget at each step, and part of that is doing the work faster too.
Yeah, 100%. And let's talk about AI improving timeliness. So if you have this magical set of virtual assistants, let's call them these bots. If we have these bots that are out there, and you don't have to do this additional work, you're now force multiplied to go from once a quarter to real time. The idea that we forecast projects once a month comes from gap accounting in the 1950s and 60s. It's around the idea of relating costs and revenue, so expenditures and revenues, and bringing them together so that we can do something called a WIP calculation and ultimately not overstate or understate our revenue. That is the reason why forecasts are hard to do, is because it's a dual purpose. One is an accounting purpose and one is a operational purpose. We've over-indexed on the accounting side. We've over-indexed on the non-operational side. The real reason why things take long is because we're asking folks, like I had mentioned in those earlier polls, to do a bunch of double data entry that isn't required. And that takes too long. And because it's taking too long, it takes months instead of hours to get a result. Even use an example, Ellis, as simple as this. You swipe a credit card and you want that credit card to show up on a cost report that week. Today, it takes 6 to 8 weeks for a credit card allocation or credit card purchase to be allocated on a job cost report on average. Because most people are waiting for statement dates. It takes, once the statement comes out, that's 30 days. It takes about a week for a PM to find time to do it, or whomever purchased it. And then another week to work its way through the accounting system, 6 to 8 weeks. Projects close out during that period. Jobs aren't going to get paid. Things get lost, misallocated, forgotten. Invoices are lost in the laundry. It's in a truck. It's gone. Non-recoverable. Mm-hmm. If you're on a GMP job, it's gone. The idea that, with a Briq automation, swiping that credit card, within 5 minutes, you get a message, take a photo, whatever credit card you're using, whether it's our debit card system or, Amex or Citibank or what have you. And then it goes in and immediately shows up on your cost report as a potentially unposted cost. But it's there, or it shows up on an invoice or a past report, even though it's working its way through the accounting system. That changes how a company runs. It goes from 6 to 8 weeks to 5 minutes. That is what AI is promising and is delivering today. And that's
because Because what it does, again, it's that, you talked about, and there's a great book, at the Adaptation Advantage that we referred to quite a bit here at Briq, which is let's atomize the workflow, and then let's either eliminate or automate those steps. And when you're building these essentially smart agents that learn how to use Sage or learn how to use Vista or learn how to use Procore on your behalf, and it gets better over time. And it all of a sudden, that what used to take 45 steps, you've automated it down to 5.
I never want to see a project manager use accounting system again. I should be able to hear the roar of project managers everywhere screaming yes, because we never want to see a project manager slow themselves down using an accounting system. We talked a lot about predictions as a type of AI. Predictions are getting a lot better. We say this: your yesterdays are crystal clear, your todays are getting better, or you have an understanding of your todays, and you got a little less cloud over your tomorrows. That's the idea about predictions. And we talk about this, Ellis, in a form that is, you got to use this thing that it's a crawl, walk, run. Predictions are just magical, but they are getting better. We have some predictive models where, counting in the number of change orders on a type of project. Is that a prediction? Yeah. Is it an AI-based prediction? I call it junior varsity, minor league AI, but it's still the concept that not enough change orders or too many change orders are equally as bad. Not enough change orders you're going to get it at the end because they're just drawer holding change orders. Too many means you're going to get it during the project. So the idea here is use a prediction to help avoid fee erosion. And when you really think about that, that's where you tie these things together. You want to tie it together so that could help avoid fee erosion.
Yeah, 100%. And I think it's about embedding that, it's really predictions are great in forecasting too, right? Yeah. Where it's like, how does my revenue spread for these, for these types of jobs with these types of owners? And then, being able to then take what a machine would tell you, in this case, kind of RAI, a machine learning model, and then compare that to what the PM forecasted, then comparing that to the actuals, and then going, okay, well, how far off are all of these things, right? It's still, and that's what one of our customers out of Colorado does, Big GC, how they run their forecast like that. But it's still very much, hey, I want it's a gut check really at this point against what your PM might be forecasting.
100%. This is my favorite one. The idea that the system works 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The idea that a bot never takes a COVID break, never takes a holiday, and they just run, and they are 24/7. And I think when we paraphrase this a lot, it's machines are better at running repetitive, repeatable tasks than humans are. Machines can do them faster and don't have an emotional attachment to not doing them at all. So the idea here is that you have bots that can work 24/7. That is what AI is kind of granting you, that ability to force multiply hundreds of, eventually they get called agents. It's a collection of bots. Agents finish workflows for you. And I think that's a big part of it. Yeah. 100%. And then finally, and this is the big one, I think, there is no such thing as generalized AI. If you ask ChatGPT about construction, it knows a little bit. But if you ask ChatGPT, is my project going to be over budget? It doesn't know what a budget is specifically. And you can feed it numbers and it still gets confused. The idea here is there are companies like us in other industries. We happen to be the only one in this industry focusing on intelligent automation, generative for construction, predictive analytics, and overall workflow management. And we'll talk a little bit about that. You can't take data about an engineering firm and try to put it on top of a construction company to run that construction company. It just doesn't work. Generalized AI is not being built for Sage 300, but it is in our case. So the idea here is that generalized AI really will not exist, with the exception of very large B2C type projects like auto drive, autopilot on a car, for instance. The idea here is that in order to be trusted, you have to know the industry, understanding what fee erosion is, understanding where there are potholes on a job to avoid them, that requires industry focus. Just like the same reason Monday.com is not a highly used project management system in construction, and Procore and PlanGrid are, same with AI. It's not going to be generalized. It has to be focused on this industry.
Yeah, 100%. And I think, the other thing is, we kind of hit the seventh one. If you really just kind of summarize, hey, what is AI? Where do I start using it? I would say that start small, right? I mean, you don't have to start with a predictive model, and try to predict, number of change orders. Starting with an automation and kind of teaching some type of, bot or some kind of agent how to run your workflows on your behalf is the best way to start building out.
Automate your whip.
Automate the whip.
Automate your whip. Like, it's a start really small. Like, you can go in and just start with something that's taking a long time. Now, it has to have a fundamental return on investment, of course, but you got to get to that point where you're automating one thing. And where I love to say, I got a 9-year-old kid. Some of you guys know that. When you watch kids play soccer, they go where the ball is, right? So you got a dozen kids on the field and the ball's in the corner and all of them are running to that ball. And that's kind of how I feel like it is in construction. Oh, there's a project losing money. Everything goes here. Run every report about that. And the idea that everything is a snowflake is a thought, but there needs to be a playbook. And we show Andy Reid's face up there. But Andy Reid did not show up at the Super Bowl without a playbook. It would be crazy. It would be crazy to do that. You need plays. Your people need to run routes. Those plays on how a change order lives, the life cycle of a project, how you forecast, how you predict revenue or do revenue forecast, billing forecasting, getting AP done, getting AR done. There needs to be a playbook. The idea that construction doesn't have a set of workflows at every company that is personalized to that company is a travesty, and it's tragic, and it's causing us to be unproductive as construction and professionals. Repeat what's working, Ellis. Repeat what's working.
Repeat what's working. I think about something even simpler, like as an estimate to budget workflow, right? Whereas things to ask yourself, hey, is this something where I can apply AI? It goes, okay, well, how many people do it? How long does it take? How many, what's the cost of that headcount burden per hour? When you start to do the math, you start to go, in some cases, in the hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
Well, it's like, okay, well, that's very easily something.
There's an $80 million GC that we did that analysis with that, it was $111,000 a year in person hours and time, entering estimates, mapping them to cost codes and getting the cost coded estimates into an accounting system and a PM system and having them all be equal. The idea that the machine at the beginning, let's be honest, only did 65% accuracy because estimating codes and cost codes are hard to map. That's why we need humans to do it. But as the machine started raising its hand and go, well, this doesn't make sense. Should it be there? Or should it not be there? Or a human goes through the process of approving it and reallocates it, it started to learn. So it went from 65% accurate to 90% accurate in under 6 months. It went from $111,000 cost to, pennies, because all you're doing is approving and posting. And when you trust the computer more, a lot of that just flows through. So get plays down and have that playbook. And in that regard, we do want to make a special announcement. I know we're reaching the end of our time. Briq is launching a new initiative as part of our platform. It's called Briq Assist. It's a 24-hour human in the loop shift that continues to train your workflows and your automations to get smarter, better, and faster. Literally, people are in our on our tech floor, 24-hour machine learning, doing things like teaching how an invoice from a specific vendor at your company should be allocated to the right fields, tracking how data is getting entered into Sage and showing where it can be faster. Humans also tracking exactly where things are getting bottlenecked. Briq Assist is a part of the overarching platform that is teaching our clients' bots and our clients' automations and our clients' augmentations of right data at the right person at the right time, teaching it to get faster and better. Getting accuracy to 100% is the Briq Assist goal. This is now rolled into the entire platform. So it is an important initiative. This is the first machine learning human-based initiative in construction today. We have projects not just around cost and finance. We have human capital projects like field employees getting onboarded in the field and turning them into employees in the payroll system. One of the great examples, a non-union contractor that is hiring in the field, who, has like an I dream of genie moment to get the data into their accounting system so this person gets paid. Non-union, they're getting hired on site, they're doing some background check, and they start working that day because there are not enough workers in America doing construction. And then it's an act of Congress to get them paid. So workflows like that are constantly learning, constantly getting better. That's what the Briq Assist team is all about. And we're really, really excited to offer this as a service to all of our clients and future clients.
Yeah, no, it's the key to, listen, I think in the next 2 years, this is going to be a radically different world from a technology landscape. It really is.
I agree.
And I think, it's actually a great opportunity, and we should all be very excited. Everyone on this call here that's in this industry should be chomping at the bit to go, okay, let's deploy this. Let's get ready to transform our company and rethink the future of work and what it means to run these plays, to deliver projects. And so we're curious to hear, after today, some of the things we talked about. Is this what you expected? Were you thinking kind of big brain, pie in the sky, Terminator type of AI? But curious to hear, folks, you feel like you're ready. And I think, obviously we're biased. I think most folks are more ready than they think they are.
If you think about what we've been doing at Briq over the last 3.5 years, over the last 24 months, 2 million transactions have been managed by bots in construction over about 300 clients. That is an insane number. On average, a bot has a 453% return on investment based on a burdened hour of $60 per hour. So meaning the hours saved specifically from this. And that does not include the stopping of fee erosion. That does not include the concept that, you don't fat finger numbers. There is no delay in a budget showing up. Like, how many times is the budget in accounting zero when you come around to creating the invoice because an integration broke or some shoddy thing you bought from somebody didn't glue together? That's the idea here. And that's what's game changing. Take it small, bite-sized approaches. But I'd love to see that 66% say I needed it yesterday, or AI is 2023's year. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. There was another question go ahead.
Yeah. So let's answer some questions.
Yeah, absolutely. One great question regarding quantity takeoffs. We have a internal project called Estimating IQ, and how do we get to a smart automated estimate? I think quantity takeoffs on analyzing drawings is part of it. That is data-driven, the extraction of it. Brandon's asking this question. Data-driven, the extraction of the quantities coming out of 3D or 2D design. I think that's only the beginning. There's a lot of art in estimating. And we're seeing, as we work with estimators on innovation groups, that there's a lot of art and some science. And so as you balance that, are we in a world where estimating can be automated? I'm a little concerned that that this could be an overpromise slightly, because ultimately where we are is still early days on the estimating front. But definitely something that we're analyzing, and somebody's posted a company in there that is trying to develop it. It's the same goes for scheduling. AI-based scheduling, can I be frank? It's not real. It's just, first of all, your schedule, even with a brain, is right like 17 minutes a project. And, trying to get a machine to make it right is probably not going to work either. I think there is a lot to come with scheduling and estimating. I think those are going to be the last frontiers. Great question just came up. How are AI potential liabilities being addressed? Right now, the biggest one that everybody has to be worried about is that concept of predictive. Like, if I had a predictive thing, and I guaranteed that the project was going to cost X. And I think from a software perspective, predictions are not accurate. It's the asterisks that go everywhere. But also, I think there is points now with automation that we have to very carefully consider in regards to what we're automating and how we're automating it. I think the promise, and I'm going to be frank, the promise that we're going to slow down safety incidences using AI is an interesting idea, but I think giving people a false sense of security, you doing that is a very deep concern. I think the liability lies around over-promising and giving false senses of security. That's why Ellis and I are saying start small. Automate an estimate to a budget mapping. Automate your forecasting process. Automate your WIP process. Automate your AP invoice allocation, credit card allocation. Automate billing systems, right? Don't necessarily get too deep into, it's the overpromise, right? And this, like I said at the beginning of this, we do not want this to be the next crypto. We don't want another bubble, and it's just, Kevin puts it out, automate document management. Like there is like there's so much low hanging fruit. And we're talking about the generative stuff. We're in the process of starting an implementation that, essentially a very large communication company and the general contractor are working together on the same project. And they're using the generative technology that we have to pull the data from RFIs and putting it into the language of the company's project management system. But it's going deeper. It's also doing the billing and textura for them. So if you think about what's happening there, this generative technology is transforming data somewhere else and turning it into qualitative data in another system. And that's also, done hundreds of times at Briq a month, and is a very low hanging fruit, Ellis, like something they can try almost immediately.
Yeah. And I think the other thing with just on the liabilities, I think reminder that, AI is like a child and right now kind of, and it needs to be supervised. Right. So I think wherever you're using AI, there needs to be a way to supervise what's happening there.
Yeah. And that's a really good point. Like the unsupervised versus supervised bots. Briq Assist is the introduction of supervised automations in intelligence. I think if somebody, this isn't like a side job, right? It's not like another software company can just wake up one morning and go, hey, you know what? We have this great AI module, because it's just not real, right? It's just a science experiment, probably by acquisition, right? There's companies out there, well-known established companies are like acquiring an AI company that has like 3 machine learning engineers. And they're like, now we're in the AI business. It's just not true. You have to be committed to this automation concept. You also have to be Switzerland. You have to be Switzerland. You can't be, making them use your accounting system. So that's why I think it works for Briq. There's a great question. Have you tested something like this before? AI screen monitoring for the first couple of months after all the data has been monitored, the AI could show bottlenecks. Yes. We start with small bots, crawl, walk, run. So let's paraphrase Zachary's question. Most people start with an automation by mapping their current business process and asking the machine to automate certain stages of that business process that are deemed repetitive tasks that they no longer want to do, right? That's what they start with. So they take this huge gnarly workflow and then they go, okay, these 4 tasks a machine can do. When we remove those 4 tasks from the workflow, but the workflow is still taking as long as it has been taking, even without those 4 tasks, that's when there's a genius moment at the 30-day mark where you're like, wait a minute, it's not just the double data entry. It's the human processing that's causing the problem. Or it's the playbook itself. Now you have the playbook. You can see where the routes missed the ball. There's a great interview that somebody was doing where they were the idea as a quarterback, you'd be blindfolded and you could throw the ball to the route when exact position when the ball was tossed, it would end up in this hula hoop, which is where the person would have ended on the route. They blindfold a quarterback. They call out a play and he throws the ball and it hits the hula hoop. You can't get there without a playbook, and you can't get better, even minorly better. I love the book Atomic Habits. Don't boil the ocean. Find 5 minutes a month you can save. Don't find 500 hours. The idea here is that efficiency for the company can only be monitored when you have a workflow engine that sits above your systems, that's personalized, connected, and collaborative. And that's really the Briq story. We are at the end. There's some great questions that we'll try to answer as time goes on. But this will be recorded. I think we went a little long.
Do we want to answer Jake's last question here?
Oh, sure. Right now, there are systems. There was a system called Pipe that got acquired by Autodesk that was really, really strong at taking OCRing, optical character recognition, and turning that into submittal logs. Our OCR has been trained to do that. It just, because it's embedded in Procore and in Autodesk Build now, it's not necessarily a part of the market that we've strongly chased, but some of our clients are doing that.
Yeah, but you can move submittals between, different systems as well, like any kind of document, at least once that's created. Well, look, I mean, I think, I hope everyone found this valuable, helpful, at least giving you kind of strip away some of the BS that you might kind of hear in the AI world. What does it actually mean? Why should we care about it? Where do we start? I think, Bassem, what my question to you is, how do you get started? What would you recommend for folks today to like at least kick some tires?
Find a process that is broken at your company. It shouldn't take you long to find. Multi-departmental jobs, like project initiation is a great way to start. Estimate to budget, buyout process, compliance, tracking, insurance, risk management. There, find a couple of these that are burning 20, 30, 40 hours a month. Call Briq up, get a limited use license on just that one bot, and just start. And just put it to its task. Briq is ready. You guys are ready. 70% of the people on this call, there's a lot of people on this call, are ready this year. Try it out with one process and see what happens. That's what I would say.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for joining today's awesome topic. We definitely will be continuing the discussion on this topic as we learn more, bringing this to you, and would love to, thanks for those that joined today, as well as our clients and some folks in the Briq world that have supported us.
And so thanks to the production, Lynn, Amanda, LJ on the Briq side for making this a reality. This was the highest attended webinar in Briq history. So I think this is a pretty cool story right now. And ultimately, like we said, if you're not automating, you're working too hard. So let's give you a couple hours back in your life.
Absolutely. Thank you everyone for attending. We'll see you next time. Thanks everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Cheers.